The number one thing that causes me the most anxiety is public toilets. People come in, they'll be frightened of me, they'll run out, they'll check that they're in the right place, and I'll go in and I'll think about whether I'm going to keep my head up to look more feminine or just go head down straight in. And then at the end of the day, some people just come in and yell at you.
Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which we record this podcast, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present. Today I am talking to Brihony Dawson, who is an entertainer, sports broadcaster, vocalist, MC, and the first ever non-binary presenter on mainstream Australian TV. Brihony joins me in studio now. Brihony, hello.
Hi, Chloé. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm just living the dream, babe.
Oh my God, fab. Me too, period. I am so excited to have you in studio today. Even just like the 30 seconds of pre-conversation we had, I'm like, oh my God, their vibes are immaculate. Chef's kiss.
That's how I win you over early. It's the pre-conversation.
Oh, I love it. Just like luring me in. I'm obsessed. Love it. So, Brihony, I like to start all my interviews by hearing about something that you might be fixating on. What are you hyper-fixating on?
At the moment, I'm really hyper-fixating on my creative projects. I didn't spend a lot of time on them last year, and so I'm just obsessed with them. I know I'm at the moment, like every time I'm in the car, I'm listening to like different songs or like different podcasts or information to like inspire me, and it gets like right into me, and I'm like, my notes section in my phone at the moment is off the charts.
Oh my God.
Like, sometimes I'll read them back and I'm like, what was I talking
What does
about?
this mean?
Is there a spelling mistake? But I don't know what that means. And then it's like, so, I'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and be like, oh, that's it. That's what that means. And I'll have to quickly like rewrite it with an extra note next to the note. So yeah, it's pretty chaotic, but I absolutely love it.
Obsessed. You have got such a vibrant and infectious personality, and your outfit, I hope we have like little snippets of this so people can see it. I'm obsessed with it. You have the coolest outfit, your tats, your hairstyle. I'm obsessed with the whole thing. Have you always been this beautifully exuberant and vibrant, or did you have to work to find your sparkle?
I guess there have definitely been times in my life where I have had to work really hard to find my sparkle. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm in one of those times now. I had such a big year last year. I think I really got to a point of like burnout where my central nervous system just went, you know what? We are out. You've got no choice behind whether we're out or not. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, it has been, and I feel like I've talked about this a lot past tense, which I think people tend to do. So I'm happy to say now that I am in a time at the moment where I am, it's a little bit harder to find my sparkle these days, but it is something that I really value about myself. I love having the energy that I do, and I love people and experiences so much. And I find that like even coming, like as I was driving from my house into the studio today, I got like more and more energy, like coming in here to meet you properly and to talk, and I love what you're doing. And so this is a really special moment for me. And so I just felt the energy coming into my body. So thank you very much for having me.
And I am so excited that you are here today. I have so many questions to ask you. I have so many things I want to talk about. The first thing, let's touch on what you just said about how last year was massive. In 2022, you made history as the first non-binary presenter to front a major TV show in Australia. What the heck, dude? That's huge.
Yeah, and I didn't even know it was a thing or that I was the first or anything. And then that's all anyone reported. And I was like, am I? Mm-hmm. Really? And so it kind of took a second to like wash over me, and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty huge.
It is pretty huge.
Yeah, and I had a lot of people in the queer community reach out to me and say how huge it was. So I think it's important not to lose perspective on that kind of stuff, because I didn't have someone like me when I was growing up. And so I think visibility is so important.
Massively so. And you've said before, you can't be, or it's hard to be what you can't see. And I think in similar aspects, we've had such similar journeys to that, me being the first autistic person to front a TV show, you being the first non-binary person to front a TV show. It's massive. And I think in some ways, I don't know if you can relate to this, but I know in some ways when I found out that I was the first autistic person, there was a kind of equal sense of excitement and sadness. I was like, I cannot believe that we are in the year 2022 and I'm the first. That's bullshit. Yep,
I agree with that. And then I'd like to add another one and say, like, just a little bit of pressure. Like, I really want to represent my community, and I want to do them proud, and I want to be an activist, and I want to be an educator. And sometimes that is so taxing and tiring, and sometimes it's one of the most rewarding things that you can possibly do.
100%. And it's trying to find that happy medium of, I want to be an advocate, and just existing is being an advocate, and just existing in the public space and having other young people who grow up not seeing themselves represented is advocating, which is incredible, but also at the same time, obviously, very taxing. What has the feedback been?
There was definitely a lot of noise from people who didn't know what it was, didn't agree with it, and that kind of thing. I had my first trolling online.
Can you talk about that if you're comfortable?
Yeah, I am. Look, I found it pretty pretty funny, actually. I was just like, because I'm sort of a little bit older, and I know I'm really comfortable with who I am and how I present. It sort of washed over me a little bit, and I just find it fascinating that people can sit there and say that stuff, like, just and then you look at their profile and it's like, mum of two, love my kids.
Oh
like,
my God,
like,
always.
My God.
Yes.
I find it absolutely fascinating. And then I sort of go to the other side of things and just be like, young people should not be reading this. If you're still trying to discover who you are, and there's a lot of unknown things in there, there's a lot of uncomfortability and that kind of stuff, you don't need to read that shit. And so it was Daily Mail are the people who put that sort of stuff out there and left the comments on and that kind of stuff. And so some friends of mine just went to them and were like, you better turn those comments off. So and for me, actually, that then ended up being a really positive experience, because a good, strong ally can make you feel really good. You know what I mean? When they're just coming in and they're just like, absolutely not. So, you kind of got to take the good with the bad, but the overwhelming response is people. Even I do gigs now, and people come up and be like, oh, this person wants to talk to you, and I was like, they can come up. I'm not a statue. And they're just like, thank you so much for being you, and being such an activist and educator in the community,
which must feel incredible. Like, it must feel euphoric to be that person, especially to be that person that you didn't have growing up. What does that feel like?
Yeah, I negotiate somewhere between imposter syndrome and loving it. So
period. I get you.
You're just like, sometimes you can really go down that rabbit hole, can't you? Of just being like, that's not me.
Lying awake at like 3 o'clock in the morning being like, who am I? What am I doing here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely have those. I think everyone has that, don't they? Like
100%.
I was speaking to one of my mentors recently, and she was like, oh, yeah, but like, should I be in this room? And I was like, oh, my God, you get that too.
Mm-hmm. And I think as well as people, particularly as people that are in minority groups and groups that haven't been represented, and especially when you are leading that change and being such a forefront in creating that change and making sure that this representation is happening, I feel like that imposter syndrome is all the more because we can't look at other people that we've seen and being like, oh, it's okay, I am supposed to exist in this aspect of society and in humanity as a whole because we haven't seen it in the past. So it's so easy for us to go, okay, well, I haven't seen it before, so is it supposed to happen? It's so easy for that little demon to like dig its hole into our brain.
Absolutely couldn't agree more.
Brihony, you are obviously an incredible role model for so many people now. Who did you have as role models growing up?
There weren't a lot. Mm-hmm. There weren't a lot. And it was seen as such a negative thing. Like as when I was growing up, identified as a woman and as a lesbian, it was kind of seen as like a negative thing and people would take the piss out of you. Like people would come up to me and sing KD Lang songs, you know, as they were walking past me and like all that kind of stuff. So it was, it wasn't something that I was particularly proud of growing up until I got my first girlfriend. And then I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Why did nobody tell me? But like one of the biggest turning points for me was when the L Word, the first season of the L Word came on TV, and it had an androgynous character called Shane, and I was like, that's me. That's my style. They're wearing like shirts and jeans and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, wow. And I was on a friend's trip in Sydney, you know, a little while after that, and I went into like a men's store and I bought 2 shirts and I was like, oh my God, this is, I was so nervous. It was like on Oxford Street in Sydney, like you can't find a gayer, queerer place. And still these people looked at me like I was just in the wrong place, in the wrong time. And I stayed in there. I was sweating bullets and I was just like, yep, I'm going to buy this shirt. It looks really good and I'm going to buy it and I'm going to wear it and And then, and I did. And I went and wore it the next day with my friends. They're like, is that like a men's shirt? And I was like, yeah, it is.
No, so it's my shirt.
Yeah.
Even now, like there's just, I completely understand there is definitely still times where that is still an issue, but I think now, like the younger generation, like Gen Z are going to change the damn world, man. Like in every aspect.
I couldn't agree more. Every time I have experiences and meet more Gen Z, I'm just like, oh, we are in safe hands.
Oh my God, 100%. And even when it comes to things like fashion, the amount of times you hear now, like fashion doesn't have a gender, clothing doesn't have a gender, wear what you want to wear. And I think it is becoming a part of our vocabulary and a part of our minds to the point where I hope that we get to a point in a year, 5 years, 10 years time where there isn't such thing as gendered clothing stores. There isn't such thing as gendered clothing, period. And I think like I'm so excited for that time.
Yeah, same. I think that the more fluidity we get into with gender, even just gender acceptance.
Yes.
You know, I think everyone is going to be better off.
100%. At the moment, obviously, it is getting better, but our world still does have a very binary focus on the way that we view human beings. How do you navigate being a non-binary person in a world that is still so incredibly focused on the binary idea of gender?
It can be really difficult at times. I work in entertainment, so, I mean, entertainment has always been such a queer space.
Yes, it's where all the weirdos flock. It's like we're all disabled, we're all neurodivergent, we're all queer. Yeah. I'm obsessed with it.
It's so good. So I'm in a really sort of safe environment most of the time. But then, you know, I do a lot of corporate events, a lot of speaking and all that kind of stuff. You know, the corporate world is not diverse. So, yes. You know, it's pretty pale, male and stale. And so it's I do find myself having to, I guess, like explain myself a lot, do a lot more effort to try and make other people feel comfortable being with me.
Yep.
And then the number one thing that causes me the most anxiety is public toilets. It's just, I just get like berated in there. And people come in, they'll be frightened of me, they'll run out, they'll check that they're in the right place. And yeah, it's a thing that I think about all the time. I try and get a girlfriend to come with me because then they'll see her and know that they're in the right place. I'll go in and I'll think about whether I'm going to keep my head up to look more feminine or just go head down straight in. And sometimes I'll spend more time in a cubicle to wait till everyone's gone so I don't have to come out. So it's a lot. And then at the end of the day, some people just come in and yell at you. So yeah, it does cause some days fine, but other days not, because, I might have been sirred 5 times already that day by the time I've, gone to the toilet, or I go through an airport and I'm sir, then, we're going to pat you down, and I'm like, okay, not a man. And they're like, no, you can't. And then everyone looks at you like you're dodgy. And, there's so much
ignorance
to navigate. Yeah. There's a lot to navigate. So, yeah, and that's every day. So it can be a lot.
Yeah, of course. And as well, you mentioned changing yourself in order to fit into other people's perceptions of what you feel like you have to be. God, that's hard.
Yeah, do you know what? It's so natural. It's
and it's the same for so many of us. We have to mask ourselves. And I know I have to do this as an autistic person. I have to go, shit, what do the typicals want? And I pretend to be their version of normal in order to survive. And I'm sure it's the exact same with you. You have to try and fit into someone's idea and idealism of the binary in order to survive a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
So with that in mind, how do you stay true to yourself and how do you stay boldly yourself?
It's come from a lot of hard work of going inwards and working out who I am and what's important for me. And it's been about surrounding myself with incredible people. I've got, friends, I've got sort of lots of different groups of friends. And, sometimes when you meld the groups together, you have a birthday or something and all your different groups have to come together, and I'm like, oh my God, how are these people going to go? And then everyone just loves each other, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, because I only have fucking awesome
good people in my life. Yes. Oh my God. And you know what? That's the thing. The amount of times I've had to go on this journey myself of, if people aren't going to love the truly authentic version of me, rack off. I don't need you in my life.
Yeah, but there's a vulnerability in that you have to actively switch on.
100%.
And not everybody can do that. And I understand people are protecting certain things about themselves, but the old V word, the old vulnerability, it makes people shudder. It makes people run.
Yeah.
It makes people do crazy things other than just opening yourself to certain things, and being boldly you, being your authentic self is one of those things.
And it is still such a privilege to be allowed to unmask and to be allowed to have that acceptance of yourself and to have an outwards acceptance of yourself too. I think particularly in the queer community, where there's still so much marginalisation and there is still so much criticism and so much ignorance when it comes to it. Both in a society, but also I know a lot of young people going through it within their own homes with their own, their grown-ups, their parents, the people in their lives as well. Learning how to unmask and having the confidence and the freedom to be completely and boldly yourself, it is such a privilege to be able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say something that, and you might feel this way as well, so a phrase that has helped me that I sort of worked out is, I'm like, it's actually the best part about me.
Yes.
In terms of it's almost like a superpower as well. I've been diagnosed with bipolar, and we'd sort of talk about that kind of stuff as well. And I'm like, oh, do you know what? Those things are the best parts about me. And so I think it's owning those things,
embracing your magic.
Yeah, absolutely. And sort of once you flick the switch on that, then it's like you can really unleash these beautiful, vulnerable, special, magical parts about yourself, and you watch other people pick them up, hold them in their arms, and they love you. And then they show those parts of themselves, and you have these beautiful, deep, meaningful connections, which at the end of the day is why we're all here.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. And like, dude, I preach this so much, like, you know, different, not less. But also your differences are what makes you human, are what makes you you. And that is the most incredible, magical thing. If we were all the same, in terms of our identities, our cultures, our genders, our sexualities, what we look like, what we're interested in, our likes and our dislikes, our neurotypes, our world, first of all, our world would be dead. We simply would not survive. Second of all, how boring would that be?
Absolutely.
Like
the weirdos make it great, babe.
Exactly. The weirdos are the ones that are forefronting it, man. I love it. And I love when I see it. The other thing as well that I always have to remind myself is whenever I see someone else that is completely doing their own thing and completely living boldly in their own lives, there has never been once where I've been like, oh, that's a bit weird. I've always been like, damn, that person is cool.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
What advice would you give to someone, a young person who is struggling, I guess, to get to that point, and whether that is affirming their gender identity or just becoming their true selves? What advice do you wish you were given?
I think it kind of relates back to like what we've been talking about is just, I kind of like say, you know, the fear and do it anyway. And it's like that all that stuff that makes you feel things, whether it's good, it's bad, it's anxiety or anything, the fact that you're having those feelings and you're having those emotions is like a gift. So like delve into it, go in and work out those things. And it's again, it's vulnerability, and find your right crew. If you're questioning your sexuality, your gender, find your queer people and go and talk and immerse and find out more about you through other people.
I love that. I think being able to find yourself, and I've noticed this when I first got diagnosed as autistic, the first thing that my mum did was put me into like this autism support group. And I was like, I don't like interacting with people. I don't want to be around other people. And then I got to this group and like I got homeschooled because of how terribly bullied I was at school and because I didn't fit in with other kids my age. And then my mum was like, hey, you're going to go to a group on your own terms full of kids your age. And I'm like, I don't want to do this shit. And then I got there and I met like 15 people who communicated the same way that I did and had the same ideas of like the fact that social normalities are bullshit that I had, and we interacted in the same way and we spoke in the same way and I saw these people and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. I'm supposed to be here because you're supposed to be here. And I looked at these people and not once was I like, oh, you're kind of weird and you're kind of strange and you're kind of a glitch in the system, the same way that I've said about myself my entire life. I went, God, you're so cool. And I feel so safe with you.
Yeah, it's such a light bulb moment. You're like, oh, why didn't I think about this before?
Yes.
It's like when I first went to uni, because I struggled so much with my sexuality like at high school and that kind of stuff. And I went to an arts uni and everyone was gay. Everyone was queer. And I was like, can we do that here? Is that right? And I was like, okay.
Yes, it is so much easier, I guess, to fall in love with parts of yourself that you didn't think you were allowed to fall in love with.
Oh, my God.
When there's other people there.
100 other things about yourself and you're like, oh my God, I'm like a whole person.
Yes.
All right,
oh my God, a whole person.
Swim in this.
Yes, 100%. Oh my goodness. I could talk to you I could talk with you all day. What do you think about people more widely stating their pronouns in things like emails, social media? Instagram has just introduced, having your pronouns on your thing. What do you think about that being more mainstream now and that it is considered more mainstream?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic because automatically if someone has their pronouns in their email signature, they're an ally.
Yes.
You know that they've probably, done a hint of research to understand it. Mm-hmm. They've probably seen the they, them or whatever your pronoun is in your email signature. So yeah, it goes a long way into providing a safe space, which I think is why people are doing it. I would love to see it as regular as introducing yourself to someone when you're like, oh, hi, my name's Brihony, my pronouns are they, them.
Yeah, just part of
Boom.
Conversation.
Done. And then you give them an in-person safe space. They can be like, great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, you have so many talents. You present, you sing. You studied in LA and Nashville doing theatre production?
Well, no, I did theatre production in Ballarat.
Theatre production in Ballarat, okay.
Ballarat Academy of Performing Arts.
Oh, wonderful. And then you studied songwriting in...
Yes, I went and toured with my band and went and did some songwriting in, LA, Nashville. So I did a tour in the US a few years in a row, and then I toured in Europe. I was playing in Vienna and Germany and all that kind of stuff, and just met the most incredible people. I've worked with Grammy Award-winning producers. I've worked with Gina Shock from the Go-Go's. She's an incredible songwriter person, and just really took me under her wing. I've sung on stage with Aerosmith at Rod Laver Arena. I met Steven Tyler when he was here, and it's a crazy world, and I love it, and I love soaking up those experiences.
Did you ever think when you were a kid that this is what your life would become, that you would be singing on stage at Rod Laver Arena with the most amazing artists?
Yeah, I did.
I did. Oh my God, I love that. That is the best answer.
I always thought I was pretty special, but I wouldn't have always used that term for it. I was always loud, obnoxious, too much energy, had to be tolerated, blah, blah, blah. And then once I learned how to harness that energy into a superpower, which is what we've just talked about, I realised that I'd always felt this way, and that I wanted to do things and create this incredible world for myself and have these experiences and help people and connect with people. And that's what I've always had inside of me. So now I'm just got to keep honouring that power and that
with
person.
That. I love that. You manifested that and you said, this is happening to me. I'm going to make sure it happens. I'm obsessed with that.
Yeah.
The confidence. We love it. Okay. So you're a presenter, you're a singer, you studied songwriting, you MC, you're a jack of all trades and a master of all of them. Where do you feel where do you feel most yourself?
Definitely with a live audience. It's really about that
immediate gratification and connecting with people. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the it is. It's the instant gratification. It's about an energy exchange. I've been talking about this energy exchange a lot this week, just with friends, being that people are like, where do you get this energy from? And I'm like, I have it, and I feel like I get to 120%, and you're in this zone, this weird vortex, but it's recyclable energy, because you go and you give it out and it comes back to you and it hits you, and it's just in this rotation, and you walk off stage and it's just you've just been invigorated, and you don't have that drop off, and you're not exhausted the next day. It is it's one of the most special moments that you can ever have, and I've had so many of those moments, and I feel very honoured, and that I can make people feel something as well.
100%. Oh my goodness, Brihony, I could listen to you talk for hours. I love your energy. I'm obsessed with it. You're making me feel excited. I want to go out and run a marathon or something right now.
And you could.
I couldn't. I've got dyspraxia. I can't even walk in a straight line without falling over.
Okay. All right. Let's table the marathon.
Maybe not that. You can do anything you put your mind to within reason.
Absolutely.
I like to finish up all of my podcasts with the Bold Lead Me 3. And it's basically these 3 quickfire questions that I ask all of my guests. Are you ready?
Fire away, coach.
Okay. First one is, what is the song that never fails to make you feel happy?
Oh, Lizzo, Am I Ready to Be Loved?
Oh my God, love it.
I couldn't love Lizzo more if I tried.
Isn't she the best?
She's an she is a genius. She is a musical genius. She is a wonderful person. She is creating safe spaces for everyone in the world, and I love her so much. Lizzo, if you're listening, I love you.
Second of all, what is one piece of advice that you would give your 13-year-old self?
You're going to be okay.
I love it. Amazing.
Yeah. I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that for a long time.
Yeah, I think a lot of us needed to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thirdly, if you could be any Disney character, who would you be and why?
Oh, my goodness. Who would I be? You know, I'm probably going to be Goofy. Old school Disney. Some sort of prince.
Yeah,
somewhere.
I'm trying to think. I'm looking at you. I'm like, there's something there. And it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm getting like Princess and the Frog characters, like the Shadow Man or something, but like a nice Shadow Man.
Yeah, like a really nice Shadow Man.
Like a really nice Shadow Man, but like it's giving camp. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, or like the candle from Beauty and the Beast.
Oh,
something.
Okay, maybe that's it. Maybe Candle from Beauty and the Beast. Okay,
let's lock that in.
Done. Love it. You can play him in the stage production. Obsessed.
Great.
Brihony, thank you so much for speaking with me today. It has been an absolute honour and privilege speaking to you.
The feeling is mutual, Chloe. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. What an incredible guest Brihony was. They are so bold and so beautifully vulnerable about their story and such a colourful human being. I could listen to them speak for hours. And I think their message is so important for every single person to hear. And I think as well raises a really good point of putting your pronouns in your bio. Right now, if you haven't already done it and if it is safe for you to do so, go to your social media and go chuck your pronouns in your bio because it helps everyone to create accessibility and accommodations. Thank you so much for listening to Boldly Me. If you liked what you heard, make sure to rate and review the show on your podcast app if it lets you, and let a friend know. Most importantly, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and do whatever makes you feel happy. Bye!